Thank you, Dr. Mu'tasim. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Do you hear me? Hello?
Yes, Dr. Mamdouh, yes.
You hear me?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. Actually, it is my pleasure to, sorry, it is really my pleasure to moderate this closing session. As I feel it is worth noting that while the opening session was addressed by Professor Abdulatif Abu Hijle, and now in our closing session, we have the incoming president of Birzeit University, Professor Beshara Doumani. To my mind, I would say that this reflects the commitment of Birzeit University leadership to the LPHA mission. Actually, Professor Doumani will talk about the importance of scientific research and his journey from and back to Birzeit University. It took him 40 years because Beshara Doumani started his teaching career in Birzeit University 40 years ago in 1981. If you think about it, exactly 40 years. He started as lecturer in the Department of Cultural Studies at Birzeit University. And here he comes now back to Birzeit University after 4 decades as professor of Middle East history at different universities in the United States, at the University of Pennsylvania, at the University of California, at Berkeley, and since 2012, he's been at Brown University, where he holds the Mahmoud Darwish Professorship in Palestinian Studies. His research focuses on social groups, places, and time periods marginalized in mainstream scholarship. Beside our first speaker, Professor Doumani, we have Professor Graham Watt, who is a professor at University of Glasgow, and he actually the chair of the steering committee or group of our LPHA. Let us start welcoming Professor Doumani. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Mamdouh, and hello, everyone. I'm honored to be invited by the Institute of Community and Public Health to say a few words at the conclusion of the 11th conference of the Lancet Palestinian Health Alliance. I had a chance to look at the program. It's absolutely terrific. And it testifies really to the talented researchers at Birzeit University, the extraordinary institution building effort, which has made the ICPH a bastion for justice-driven, evidence-based, and ethical knowledge production. I was asked to speak about the importance of scientific research. This is a subject that most of you know more about than me. As I am a historian, I would rather just say a few contextual words, if I may, for only a few minutes. First of all, the focus of the conference on Palestinians inside and outside of the occupied Palestinian territories is indicative of a generation-long shift from state-centric projects, building a Palestinian state, to people-based projects, with all that entails. Now, the ICPH has always had in mind a people-centered approach that is not only concerned with national liberation, but also with equality and justice in terms of gender, class, among other factors. And that testifies to the enormous understanding by the founders of ICPH and all those that followed in their footsteps, that the diversity of Palestinian society and its internal contradictions are sources of strength, not just of weakness. That is to say, we aspire that the Palestinians live a normal life like any other people, but in fact, they have become, in many ways, the canary in the mine for the most important global challenges that we are facing today. But the high price they pay in being in that position comes with an opportunity to try to face these challenges creatively through innovative research that may or may not be useful to other peoples and groups across the globe who are facing somewhat similar challenges. And in that sense, the regional focus and the global scope of this program, this connection with American University Beirut and other universities in the region, along with professors and practitioners from a variety of universities across the globe, is testimony not only, I think, to the importance of solidarity with the Palestinians, but something actually much more important. And that is their willingness to enter into joint projects which center the Palestinian experience, which allow Palestinians a central voice in the framing and the execution of these projects. That is to say, which looks, a framework that looks at the Palestinian condition or the Palestinian society under occupation, not just as a place that tests theories and practices, but actually to inspire new theories and practices. And the ICPH has become synonymous, really, with the possibility that Palestinian institutions can live up to this challenge of being under the microscope and to innovate and to build slowly but surely rock-solid, evidence-based scientific research that is of hopefully use and benefit to people far and wide in this globe. And I thank you very much for this opportunity. In fact, this is my first public talk as the incoming president of Birzeit. And I don't think it's a coincidence that it takes place at the invitation of Dr. Abdulatif Hosseini and the members of this conference, because I believe the ICPH is one of the most important units at Birzeit University. It's had an enormous role in bringing university to the world and bringing the world to the university. And I thank you all for this opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Doumani. Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Professor Graham Watt to give us, first of all, who are the winners for the posters that they were presented during this conference. And at the end, he will give his insight through his closing remarks about the conference deliberations and discussions. Please, Professor Watt.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm just going to...
Loud and clear.
There we go. Well, first of all, thank you to Dr. Beshara Doumani. I think you probably don't realize how well your remarks dovetail with the first presentation to the conference from Richard Horton on Monday. In particular, Richard talked about the broader picture of structural racism in the wake of colonialism, which puts the Palestinian struggle in the context and at the forefront of a much broader struggle in the world today. So thank you very much for that contribution, and also to your predecessor, Dr. Abdul Latif Abu Hijle, the current president of BZU, for welcoming us on Monday. And we know he's been a steadfast supporter of the LPHA. And whilst I'm at it, thanks also to Abdul Latif Husseini, the director of the ICPH, which has been a steadfast supporter of the LPHA. Of course, there's much more to the LPHA than the ICPH. Very important contributions from Al-Quds, from the Islamic University of Gaza, from An-Najjar, from Bethlehem and Hebron, other universities in the region, notably AUB, and dozens of universities around the world, in addition to professionals and practitioners in the occupied Palestinian territory. But I think nobody denies the importance of the ICPH as the hub of this alliance. I'm going to remove the uncertainty about the best poster presentations. Originally, there were 65 accepted for poster presentation, and some 18 months after that, 40 colleagues have delivered posters, and we're grateful to them for their persistence and enthusiasm for submitting their work. And all of the posters were subject to 3 independent checks with a 12-point checklist, assessing the posters not just for their science, which is a test they had already passed through peer review, but for the clarity of their communicating what they had done, why they had done it, how they had done it, what they found, and what it meant. Communicating all that clearly and concisely for the passing observer. And 3 posters came out clearly on top of that ranking procedure. We weren't able to separate them after that. So in fact, there are 3 prizes for the best poster. And the first one is to Mohammed Sahan at the University of Tokyo, but he has colleagues in Canada, Japan, and the West Bank. And his poster was on the psychometric properties of an Arabic language health literacy assessment scale for adolescents in the occupied Palestinian territory. And you see, good practice, bang in the middle of his poster is the take-home message. And equally, first prize is the poster from Doha Tarifi from the Philadelphia University in Amman, with colleagues in the USA, the West Bank, and the UAE. Her abstract was on the quality of life of multiple sclerosis patients receiving medical care in the Palestinian Ministry of Health directorates in the West Bank, OPT, and associated factors. And thirdly, and equally, the poster from Maha Atut from, sorry, I think I've mixed up Maha and Doha in terms of their institutional basis. But the poster was Advanced Technology in Nursing Education, a multiple case study approach from Palestine. They will all be getting a certificate signed by myself and Abdul Latif Husseini, confirming that they got the first prize for the poster presentation at this conference. And I think that Mohammed and Maha are with us. You might be able to see their pictures on your screen. So congratulations very much to all 3 of you. There are some, the people are getting carried away there. There are some other thanks to make for the smooth running of this conference. I'll just go through them, beginning with Reem Ladadwa. Please excuse my Arabic pronunciation and feel free to be amused by it. Reem has been responsible for the seamless presentation of the recorded presentations throughout this conference. And I think you cannot but be impressed by how glitch-free the conference has been, and that is due to the colleagues behind the scenes, and this is the particular contribution that Reem has made. So thank you very much to her, and to two other colleagues in the ICPH, would add Zaidan and Lina Abdul Samad, who were helping with the very many background tasks that are required for a conference such as this. Also, the main person at the ICPH with whom most of you had contact, that's Shiraz Nasser. She is one of 4 members of the coordinating group, which I'm privileged to be a member of, along with Huda Zaraik at the AUB, but mainly Rita Jackman from the ICPH, whose passion for the LPHA has no equal. Rita is not with us today, but we wish her well. The steering group also, a group of maybe a couple of dozen colleagues, 2/3 Palestinian, 1/3 international, contributing very much to the process of the Alliance in terms of peer review, chairing sessions, scoring abstracts, all sharing their commitment to the development of the Alliance. So thank you very much to all our colleagues there. And indeed to Richard Horton, the inspirational leader of the LPHA, who would have been giving this talk, but he has a hospital appointment, a much more important thing for him, and indeed for us. We wish him well and look forward to hearing from Richard again. So, some reflections on this conference, which I think undoubtedly has been a success. It's been a long time in the thinking and the preparation. It was originally planned to take place last November. It had to be postponed, but now has finally taken place. So congratulations to everyone for sticking with the conference and making it happen despite the problems. Attendance has been good, compares well with physical conferences. 250 by Zoom and YouTube on the first day, 160 the next day, 100 the third day. Don't know the numbers for for today's sessions. That's very good. Now it's reflected in the quality of the proceedings. You cannot but be impressed by the quality of the presentations, the questions, the technical presentations, the breadth of studies, the quality of the science. There's no question that the LPHA has matured hugely over its 10 years and is now a first-rate scientific conference. Of course, a virtual conference doesn't have the social possibilities and informal contacts that are so important in alliance and networks such as the LPHA. But despite that, in terms of the conference, I think the virtual format has worked well. The quality of the presentations and the discussion has been high. It's been wonderful to see so many old friends and colleagues on the screen, you know, from all over the world. Mads Gilbert up at the top of Norway, Jennifer Leaning in Harvard, Harry Shannon in Toronto, Mohammed in Tokyo. We would not have achieved that with a physical conference. And also more locally, a virtual conference allows colleagues from Lebanon, the West Bank and Gaza to meet in the same virtual space, which isn't possible with a physical conference. So COVID has done us a favor in some respects by showing us the potential of virtual meetings as not as an alternative to a physical conference, but as another alternative to how we conduct our business. And looking forward, on behalf of the steering group, I can say that we are committed to continue to be providing opportunities for the passion and the commitment and the productivity of the LPHA to be expressed through meetings, whether they're larger conferences like this or topic-specific webinars like the one we had last November, which was very well attended via social media. All that will happen. Our conference closes today, but it's not the end. The all of the abstracts will be invited to submit for further peer review prior to submission to the Lancet, which we hope will continue to publish these abstracts. Because the proceedings have been recorded, we have a resource to deploy on social media, and that creates opportunities that we haven't had before. There are many aspects of the conference that need to be heard more widely, not least Richard Horton's inspirational talk on Monday. So that all has to be done. We would like to have comments from participants, either by directly to Shiraz at the contact numbers that you have. Sorry, I'm just getting ahead of myself. I'm trying to see if I can get the gallery view and see more faces on the screen. It hasn't worked for me. So I had wondered about doing an interactive exercise, but because I can't see people on my screen and present at the same time, I'm going to move on from that with two reflections. And forgive me if they're personal, but I hope they ring a bell. The first is the thing that I remember most from this conference. It was on Monday. It was Frederica Cavassone's presentation. And you see bottom left this quote from her qualitative research from a 9-year-old girl in Gaza. I don't understand, we're already refugees. What do they want from us? Where do they want us to go? I don't understand what they want. I just stay in my room, terrified. Well, there's a voice that needs to be heard loudly and widely, especially when you consider that there are tens of thousands of 9-year-old girls in Gaza, and their voices need to be heard. And next, somebody who's not 9, but who was 99. My colleague Runa Mackay, who died last year in her 99th year. A pediatrician who came to Nazareth in the Galilee in 1955 to have a short-term locum appointment, and she stayed 30 years. You see her bottom left. And when she left, she was by far the oldest person I ever corresponded with by email. If anybody has corresponded with somebody older than 99 by email, I would like to know. When she was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award of the UK charity Medical Aid for Palestinians, MAP, and I had the honor of presenting it, I said how remarkable it was that somebody in their 90s, 93, was still campaigning for the Palestinians. And she corrected me saying she wasn't 93, she was only 92. A remarkable woman who in 1981 was one of the co-founders of the Galilee Society. That's the Arab National Society for Health Research and Service, mainly to do with Arabs in Israel. And 3 days ago, we had a presentation on the first day of the conference from the Galilee Society. And there's a seed that was planted 4 decades ago and is continuing to bear fruit, and exemplifies what Runa Mackay was talking about in her book, which she subtitled A Personal Journey with the Palestinians. And speaking on behalf of internationals, it's a privilege and an honor to have these personal journeys with the Palestinians because of their long-term significance and importance. The LPHA is not just a research network, it's also a resistance movement, a people-based project, as the incoming president described, which refuses to be typecast by other people's narratives, but is affirming itself. It's also a traveling community, a vibrant traveling community of young and old, experienced and inexperienced, Palestinian, regional and international, all contributing to the journey, arguing for peace and justice, with science as our compass. And it's the responsibility of the older and experienced members of the Alliance to recognize that the future belongs to the young, and we have to hand the opportunities over to the younger generation for the LPHA to thrive. So, thank you to everyone who's contributed to the LPHA conference. There's a saying in the city that I come from, happy to meet, sorry to part, happy to meet again. We will all be happy to meet again at the next Palestinian Health Alliance meeting. What form that will take is not clear yet, but it will take place. The steering committee will be meeting in the early autumn to reflect on your comments on this conference, on the numbers attending, on the quality of the event, and we'll be determining what the best next steps will be. That's all for me just now. Mamdouh.
Thank you so much, Graham. It is really thrilling to hear your voices as our partners abroad from all over the world, from the US, from UK, from Canada, from Japan. The solidarity you are showing us gives us a lot to sustain all what we are facing. And now I think we are winning more and more, because now it is becoming the apartheid is not a taboo now anymore. It is very obvious that we are facing an apartheid regime that, even according to our brothers in South Africa, it is much more cruel and sophisticated than the apartheid that had been witnessed in South Africa. So we'll keep together, as you said, peace and justice with the science and research, scientific research as our compass. We will meet and we'll keep together. Thank you so much. And I would like to say goodbye for now for all our friends who are on the screen now, and looking forward to see you, hopefully physically, in the next 12th LPHA conference.